Welcome to Knicks Home Court with your host. My name is Greg Armstrong. This is episode number 67. And in this episode, this hasn't been a game. It wasn't a game on Thursday. No game on Friday. So I figured, you know what? This is a good time to give thanks to all the listeners and the people who comment on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm going to read a few comments and things like that. I really do appreciate it. I mean, this podcast has grown kind of fast lately, and I really, really appreciate it. And again, all I'm doing is trying to create a community of intelligent Knicks fans. So besides just making comments to me, feel free to comment with each other as well, because I read the comments. I don't respond to them because a lot of times I'm going to mention and highlight certain comments on the podcast so everyone can hear them, because sometimes people might miss them. But I really appreciate it, and I enjoy reading the comments. All of the comments are very intelligent, very good points of views, and I really like that. This is what being a Knicks fan is like. It's almost like a barbershop with no barbershop, barbershop within a podcast. So I really like that. So with that being said, before I get into the comments, I want to talk about something really quick. Got a little house cleaning to do. So the Knicks, before I talk about what I was going to talk about, the Knicks, just a little Knicks news. The Knicks sent Ron Baker and Damian Dotson to the G League to play a game tonight. And that's via Ian Begley. Ian Begley said that they should be back by Saturday, back with the team. And I think the reason why you do stuff like that is to make sure, for one, I think that Baker needs to get healthy, and I think that's where he's getting some reps. And I think it's also to get reps for Damian Dotson. Like, he's at the end of the bench. He's not getting any time. So you send him down, let him play some ball, keep them in shape, keep them ready. I mean, this is a good thing to do. There's nothing negative about it. It's a good thing to do. Also, Joakim Noah was like, he just made a comment and he said, look, whatever the coach wants me to do, I'm going to do. In other words, he's saying that, look, if I got to sit at the end of the bench and not play, I'll be a cheerleader. If they call me to play, I'll be ready to play. And this is what I was talking about Noah. Yes, his days of being an effective and really great player is behind him. However, it's that kind of leadership. If a veteran like him, who's making the salary he's making, can be okay with being on the bench, that helps a lot of other players, young players, who basically haven't done shit in this league, that are on the Knicks, that are pouting. Somebody like, I don't want to say pouting, but probably feeling disappointed or losing confidence. Somebody like Billy Hernan Gomez, who I would like to see on the court, but right now he's behind two guys who are playing very well. And when a player like Noah, even though he's not good anymore, still he's a veteran, he's getting a big salary. I'm sure he wants to prove that he still can play, but he's willing to sit for the betterment of the team. That is leadership, and that's why you have veterans on your team. He's going to probably go about practice very hard. Think about this. Think about the maturity it takes you are a known player in this league. You have been a star. You're going to come back. He's probably going to practice really hard. He's going to root really hard for the guys, and he knows he's not going to play, and he's going to still be okay with it. Now, there's millions of reasons for him to do that. But other than that, it's still great to have that kind of leadership on your team. It's great for somebody like Billy Hernan Gomez to see. And maybe Noah can sit next to him on the bench and say, look, explain the game to him, help him defensively. Because Noah hasn't been with the team, because I think when you're suspended, you can't be with the team. Well, speaking of Hernan Gomez, I actually wanted to read a comment. Somebody had asked about Hernan Gomez. Being that I'm there, I'm going to speak on it. I will read your name when I get to the comment. It just popped in my head, and the question was, what can Hernan Gomez do? What can Billy do to get on the court? What can he do to get some playing time? And I say that right now, there's not much he can do this season. I think that as long as O'Quinn is playing like a super sub, see, this is the thing. Defensively, he's nowhere near as good as O'Quinn. Offensively, he's nowhere as good as Kanter. There you have it. And now Kanter's even trying to play defense. So that leaves him in a tight spot. He will get he will get enough playing time this year. Trust me, as the season goes on, it's a long season. Players get nicked up. He just needs to be ready when his number's called. Trust me. When Hornacek throws him in the game like he does towards the end, even if it's not a blowout, maybe we need some energy from the bench. He's trying to develop him. He's giving him opportunities to do things. His defense is still bad, folks. I don't really understand how players outside of physical ability don't understand defensive concepts. But either way, his defense is still not really good. I think this season, we may not see much of Billy the whole year. Maybe in the second half of the season, maybe in the dog days. Like I said, players get hurt, they get injured, things like that. I don't want that to happen, but he'll probably see some time then. But what he can do in the offseason, I think, to increase his chances of playing, he needs to develop a reliable three-point shot. And I know Hornacek doesn't really fully play like that, but he needs to develop a three-point shot. Add that to his arsenal offensively. He's a decent shooter. I've seen practices of him shooting threes. He can shoot them. And if he can add that to his offensive repertoire, two things will happen. Either he'll get playing time because he's consistently hitting that three, or he becomes available for a trade. I don't want to trade him, but I'm sure he wants his NBA career. He wants to play. So it opens him up for more opportunity. And then he needs to probably lose a little more weight, add a little more muscle. You know, maybe work with somebody in the offseason, a defensive coach. Really, it comes down to this, folks. How bad do you want this? Kristaps Porzingis wants to be a star. He wants to be a great player. He wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. He knew this offseason he has to work on some of his low post moves, and he knows he needed to get stronger. Every offseason he's working towards that. I hope Frank Ntilikina does that also in the offseason. You have to work towards your goals. A perfect example of this is David Lee. Did we think David Lee ever can be an all-star? He became an all-star in the Western Conference, and he worked hard to become that player. He literally worked himself. If you want to think back a little further than that, Anthony Mason came from the CBA, worked his way up to playing significant minutes for the Knicks, and became an all-star in Miami. A lot of people don't know he had an all-star season. If you work hard enough, if you put that work in, you're going to do well, because hard work always beats talent 100% of the time, because there's a lot of talented players that are not in the league. Matter of fact, speaking of that, Josh Smith just got cut. He got picked up. I forgot what team picked him up. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The point is he got cut. Why? Because Josh Smith has always had talent, but he's never really worked on his game. He likes to shoot a lot of threes and never got good at it. He's not a smart player. He's a low IQ player that's basically all athleticism. And that works to a certain degree until you get other players who are athletic and smart and skilled. So anyway, I just wanted to say a few things about that. Now let me get to these comments. And shout outs. People still say shout out. I'm glad. I don't feel too old. All right, I want to shout out Maverick718. You know, a couple of days ago on episode 64, he was like, need that new podcast for my morning drive to work, my brother. I appreciate that, because actually I read that comment and I was busy at the time, and I said, as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to put that podcast up, and that's exactly what I did. Actually, I give you credit for that. I got motivated. Episode number 65, literally, I went home and put that podcast out there because of that comment. I appreciated that. I do this for us, you know, so I appreciate that. Shout out to Isham34 Smith. I really appreciate you, brother. You comment on all of my podcasts, multiple comments. I read them all. I enjoy it. And I see you understand that the Knicks get a lot of hate. Don't worry about it. That's why I created this forum, and that's why I created this podcast. This ain't about hate here. It's only about facts and what's really going on. So, you right about what you said about Humpty, Canty, and Rosenberg. I don't listen to them. I don't. Let me tell you something. Every time I turn on Michael K, it lasts about 10 seconds. Them dudes is corny. They start going on about their life, and they're corny, man. They're corny. ESPN New York let me tell you, New York got a lot of people who are not corny. Why they got these corny dudes up here? Like, they corny. And the thing is, I'd rather you just talk sports. I don't need to know anything about your life and things that's going on because you're corny. Oh, he's probably the dude, but get the fuck out of here. Anyway, I don't want to go too far with that, So but it's not ESPN. I thought it was ESPN, but I have listened to podcasts from LA, ESPN LA, and it's far better. I used to listen to ESPN LA, and they're talking about the Lakers, and I would just listen. The Rams are the best team, one of the best teams in the NFL, and you listen to ESPN LA, they still will talk about the Lakers and the Clippers with respect. Now, obviously, the Lakers are the Lakers, but still, Shout out to Joe Collins. I don't know who's going to go. And this was a couple of days ago. He asked the question. I thought it was Kuzminskis. I don't think it's going to be Ramon Sessions. Again, because Jarrett Jack doesn't really play full seasons. He gets hurt. He's 36 or 30, 35 or 36 coming off a big injury. So you can't expect him to last the entire season without missing some games. And you don't want to just have Frankie and Ron Baker. So, it's good to have that veteran presence right there. And don't get me wrong, there'll be players that'll be available eventually that we can probably pick up. But right now, I wouldn't cut Ramon Sessions. Kuzminskis, I don't want to cut him. But you know what? A sleeper, don't be surprised if Beasley gets cut. Because I'm growing to not appreciate the things that Beasley can do, his scoring ability. It doesn't seem to mesh well with the Knicks. Because the Knicks right now are about ball movement, body movement. He's about isolation. And there's nothing wrong with that if the play calls for that. But it just doesn't seem like a fit. Like he doesn't, and don't get me wrong, I don't mind an isolation player if you're that good. Like Kristaps, he isolates. He's that good. Harden isolates. He's that good. But Beasley doesn't seem like he's that good anymore. So I would not be surprised if he's the one who actually gets cut because he's on a small contract. And another thing, too, can we stop trying to give Frank Ntilikina a name? Just call him Frank Ntilikina until we figure out his game. And then give him a name. And his name doesn't have to be Frankie this, Frankie Nicotine. It's fucking terrible. Frankie Smokes. Fucking terrible. See these corny dudes. What the hell? It doesn't have to be Frank anything. It could just be something that doesn't have his name in it. Like I said, it was Air Jordan, Magic Johnson. They didn't say Irvin Johnson and Irvin Passer. They didn't do that. It doesn't make sense. You could just how his game is. Maybe he could be the glove part 2. That's Gary Payton's name. Maybe he could be the glove part 2. Maybe he could be the baby glove. Who knows? There's many things. Maybe you can call him the blanket with his long arms. Something. But just give it time. We don't need to force that shit. It's just frustrating when you hear people come up with these corny ass names. Look, let him earn that. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what he does on the court. And then we can give him the name. Actually, I'm ready to give Kyle O'Quinn a name because he has plenty of personality on that court. We got to come up with a name with Kyle O'Quinn, because he's like the alpha dog off the bench, and I love that shit. And New York loves that shit. That's why people are not complaining about Billy no more because guess what? That New York grit that Kristaps was talking about, Kyle O'Quinn has that. And he's from Queens. Don't forget. Big shout out to Jay Will. I appreciate it. You see, you love the podcast. I love that. I missed this one 3 days ago. The Fuhrer TV said, we also need your list, Greg. Top 10 Knicks of all time. That's a good one. And you know what? Thank you. I'm at 100. I'm actually at 100, and I think right now I'm at 125 subscribers. My other podcast got 1,000 views. I'm like ecstatic. It feels good when you know people are listening and watching and paying attention, and But all right, let me take this off the top of the head. My top 10 Knicks of all time. Wow. Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm not going to name any Knicks I've never seen. So that's going to shorten the list significantly. I'm not going to name Clyde Frazier. I'm not going to name Willis Reed. I'm not going to name I didn't see them play. Let my father name them. I'm not naming them. I didn't see them play. I don't think I should just throw them in there. I'm only, because honestly, I don't really like doing lists because I feel like it just, the way that lists are done nowadays is not completely fair. Because eras are different, players are different, the way the game is played is different. The NBA at this point plays in it plays an ABA game. If you know anything, research the ABA. They're the ones who came up with the 3-point line. A lot of people don't know the 3-point line did not exist. The ABA created that. Their game was up-tempo, run up and down the court. The NBA never was like that. What happened is when they merged the leagues, they adopted some of the stuff that the ABA had done. A lot of people may not know that, but that's a little history for you there. So my top 10 Knicks of all time at this moment in time, let me see if I can go in order. All right. Number 1 got to be Patrick Ewing. That's pretty easy. Number 2 for me has to be Bernard King. I actually saw Bernard King, and not in person, but used to watch. I remember the games. See, I'm showing my age a little bit. The games used to come on Channel 9, WOR. The Knicks were on regular TV at one time, free TV. And I remember watching a game where Bernard King actually got hurt chasing Reggie Theus on a defensive play, and he fell to the floor, and he's slapping the floor, and I'm like, oh, and I was a little boy. And I turned to my father, and I was all upset because when you about 8, 9 years old, you cry and shit. Because Bernard King was a hero, So he's number 2 for me. And I wish he would have stayed longer because he could have been number 1. He was really, really a great, great player. Number 3. Now I'm going to just go for my personal favorites and players that I loved in a Knicks uniform. They may not have played long for the Knicks, but these are players I loved in a Knicks uniform. So number 3 for me is Latrell Sprewell. Yes, Latrell Sprewell. He brought that fire when he used to dunk and make that little face and shit. I used to love it. Latrell Sprewell is definitely number 3 for me. Number 4, I'm going to try to speed this up because this is literally off the top of my head. Got to be Allen Houston. Allen Houston is underrated as a Knicks player. And the reason why I say that is because, see, I don't look at things as, I look at peak production. Peak production. And that's how I judge players. I don't judge players over longevity because guess what? Longevity is about being healthy. But at your best, at your very best, what did you do? What did you accomplish? And guess what? When the Knicks went to the finals in 1999, Allen Houston had a big part in that. In that game where Larry Johnson hit that 4-point play, Allen Houston scored 34 points. He destroyed Reggie Miller in that game, hitting shots from all over the court. By the way, we got to Indiana because Allen Houston hit the last second shot. Now, a lot of people were mad because Allen Houston got paid $100 million by the Knicks. But to me, he lived up to the contract because my idea is winning. He got that team to the championship. Yeah, we lost to San Antonio, but it was one of the greatest thrills that I experienced as a Knicks fan. I mean, what else can I ask for? Do I want him to average 30 every night and never make the playoffs? See, because I don't measure. So would he be worth his contract if he averaged 30 every night and got eliminated in the first round for the next 7-8 years, for the 7-8 years straight? No, I don't measure it like that. I measure it that he got paid $100 million, yes, but he got his team to the finals, and he was an integral part of that team getting to the finals, him and Sprewell. And Marcus Camby. That was a nice, they fucked up and broke that team up the very next year because Knicks do Knicks thing. I got to say that negative comment. They do stupid shit. They broke that team up. They got rid of Camby. They got rid of Sprewell. They just fucked that team up the very next year. But anyway, so that's my third favorite Knick. Again, I'm not saying the best Knicks. These are just my favorites. So that was number 3. I'm trying to go fast here, but it's very difficult because I got guys. I know the order is gonna get a little mixed up because I want to get through it because I want to get to some more comments. But let's see who's number 4. Oh. Now, this one here, a lot of y'all may not know of him. I remember seeing him. I was young. He was a fantastic player, but he got kicked out of the league for cocaine use, and it was Michael Ray Richardson. I think he was like 6'4", 6'5" point guard. He was electric. He was a coast-to-coast guy. He was amazing. He literally could have been a Hall of Famer. That's how good he was, but he could not stay off that coke. But the time I saw him, if you look back at his tapes, this dude was nasty. So yes, he's number 4 for me. That guy was really, really good. He was really, really good. Number 5, another Knick that defined the era of the 90s of the Knicks. Charles Oakley. Before people don't understand, Charles Oakley was he was the goon that the Knicks needed on the team. He was a goon. He was no joke. He had that nice little jump shot. He used to average a lot of rebounds. He was a very good player, and he was just a tough player, and he was a part of the defensive team. Now, I mentioned Oakley, and I know a lot of y'all guys are probably saying, what about John Starks? Guess what? He's the next guy, folks. Yes, John Starks. So I put Oakley before Starks. I put Sprewell before Starks. Houston, Michael Ray Richardson, yes. And there goes Starks. And I appreciate Starks for where he came to where he ended up, in the NBA. And he was a hard worker, overachiever. He really was an overachiever because a lot of people don't realize that John Starks was listed as 6'5" half the time, but he really was like 6'3", 6'2 and a half. And that's why he routinely, I hate to say it, he got destroyed by Jordan just about every single time. Jordan would toy with him and he would get mad and want to fight. But he was 6'2". I mean, he was like 6'2 and a half. That's why Reggie Miller, who was 6'7", also used to shoot over John Starks. John Starks was like a Knick legend that really wasn't as good as the other players that he had to go up against on a given night. But he was a gritty player. He had a lot of heart. He played with all his heart. He gave it all to the Knicks. And I really, really appreciated him as a player. Even though we lost the finals when he missed all those shots, I can't blame him for taking the shots because shooters going to shoot. Riley didn't take him out. And that was that. That's why he played. That's why he shot like that. Now, I would be wrong if I didn't include this guy. And this is a guy I'm going to include that I've never really been a fan of, but I can't deny his importance to the team. And that's Charlie Ward. I got to give, because Charlie Ward was a tough defender. He was a tough NBA player. He was actually a football star, a Heisman Trophy winner that ended up playing basketball and had a good career. Charlie Ward was a good player. He had some big shots, played some good D. He was a low-key dirty player every now and then. So that is number 6? And I'm going to save the last 4 for later because I went long on this and I'm already 24 minutes in. And I want to get to a few more comments. So I will finish my top 10 and I may revise it eventually when I give it some more thought. So this is off the top of my head. So I just wanted to name those guys. I know y'all going to throw some guys in there. It might be some people I may have forgotten as well. So that'd be cool. Shout out to Joe Holmes. Shout out to Key Musician's son. Did I shout you out, Joe Collins? Shout out to Joe Collins. Yes, I did. You got 2 shout outs. It's all good. Dwight Young from Florida. Shout out. I appreciate it. And even if I don't get to your comments today, because I'm already at 25 minutes, I'm most likely going to revisit this, because I read the comments, and when I have time I get into it. So there'll be other times where there's no games and I get into your comments. Banks Money, what's up, Banks? Said Frank can be rookie of the year. He's not going to be rookie of the year because in the NBA they value offense. Literally, if you're a really good offensive player, that's why Kawhi Leonard doesn't really have a chance to be MVP. They only started mentioning Kawhi Leonard as an MVP when he started scoring. So, people always talk about defense, but the truth is, like Mutombo in his career, he was one of the great defensive players and never sniffed an MVP. But you could be a scorer like Carmelo Anthony, no disrespect. He had a great year with the Knicks, but he's a scorer. He never was a defensive player, and he was 3rd in the MVP voting. So if you're not an offensive player, you're not going to get voted for Rookie of the Year, or you're just not going to get it. You got to be able to have offense. And by the way, Ben Simmons he's good, man. He is the best thing Philly has going. I think he'll be better than Embiid. I think he's that good. That guy is special. He is special. I'm not a hater. That dude is special. So I don't know why they got this Ben Simmons and then they got Markelle Fultz. I don't know what the fuck Philly is doing. Yeah, trust the process, right? Everybody's hurt every year. Trust the process. Fuck them. Shout out to Con199304. Thank you for subscribing. Now this name here, Vil Lataja. I probably butchered your name. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate. Oh wow, keyboard musician son again. Yes. Yeah, Malik Monk is a clone of good Lord, I forgot. Of Lou Williams, yeah. But I think he possibly could be a better scorer, but he's that kind of player. He, like I said, one-dimensional, he can score. He eventually will be a 6-man. And then I don't understand, when I'm watching the game, they talking about he's going to be a point guard, but they got Kemba. So I don't understand what their plans are if they got Kemba and they trying to groom Monk to be a point guard. I don't really understand, because Kemba's a better player than Monk. I don't think Monk will ever be as good as Kemba. And I know Kemba is a little smaller, but Kemba's a dynamic player, and he's tough. He got that New York grit. I hate to say it. He's from the Bronx. Shout out to the Bronx. So that's it for the comments for today. I didn't get to as many as I wanted, and that's because, I got the question about the 10 greatest Knicks, and I really appreciated that. That's dope. If I would have looked at that first, I probably would have started with that. I probably would have taken my time and had all of those comments together and things like that. But let's get back to the Knicks and what's going on. And the Knicks play Sacramento tomorrow. That game it's what you call kind of a trap game. And what I mean is, Sacramento's a talented team, and when you have those young teams, you don't know what team you might get. De'Aaron Fox, I think he's going to be a really good player. Buddy Hield is an outstanding three-point shooter. So you don't know what team you might see on Saturday. The Knicks just have to play their game and continue to play team ball. Because like I said, I'm laughing, but and first of all, I wanted to say this really quick. I almost forgot. Knicks need to shoot more goddamn three-pointers. Please, shoot more three-pointers. You have to. Good Lord. They don't shoot enough threes, and they're good from three-pointers. Shoot more threes. That's all I need to say about that's one thing that can balance, because even in the last game that they lost, they shot better than that team. They shot better, but the threes outweigh the twos unless you're scoring in the paint, under the rim. And I don't get this. Like, these guys are very smart. These coaches are very smart. The Knicks just need to shoot more threes. I mean, it doesn't add up. A team can shoot 35, and then they letting teams shoot 50% from three. That's ridiculous. Just chase them off the 3-point line. I will say this until I start to see the Knicks do that. Even when they win games, I'm frustrated because these teams get to stay around because they start hitting threes. A lot of the games that the Knicks actually probably should have ran away with, teams make comebacks or stay in the game because of a 3-point shot. That is the great equalizer. That's why you have a lot of teams, young teams, developing that. They're just shooting threes now. I don't like it, but it's a part of the game. And the Knicks need to adapt and shoot more. At least if they shoot more threes, they can balance out when another team is hot from three. And this is what happens to the Knicks. They let teams shoot 45% from three, and then the Knicks don't shoot any threes. So that means the Knicks got to shoot damn near 60% to keep up. But anyway, I digress as far as that. Like I said, the Knicks play Sacramento. It's a game that they should win. And I feel funny saying should win for this team, but I think they've shown me enough effort. If they put their effort forth like they normally do and take care of the ball, they should beat Sacramento. Actually, if they keep putting forth this kind of effort offensively and defensively and running their offense, they probably might be a playoff team. Because I said the way they're playing is very sustainable. It's not a bunch of hot shots. Now, and also just want to say this real quick. What the last game showed me without Kristaps is what I've been saying is that it's sustainable. They were in that game if it wasn't for the turnovers. And that's without Kristaps Porzingis because they relied on their system. And by the way, that kind of system is very good in the playoffs. That one-on-one ball doesn't work as much in the playoffs because teams will stack up against that. Anyway, this brings us to the end of the podcast. This is episode number 67. I'm your host. My name is Greg Armstrong. And I'll speak to y'all after the Sacramento game. Peace.